I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining us this week on Newsmakers. We're continuing our series of interviews with Missouri Southern faculty members who are retiring after many careers and many years here at Missouri Southern. And joining me today from the theater department, Anne Jaros. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
And I know a lot of years you've spent here at Missouri Southern since 1989.
That's correct.
So just kind of a question probably a lot of people say, what's the feeling like when you see this end in sight for the end of your academic career?
Well, I never thought it would happen, and suddenly here it is. So it's kind of an unusual feeling, but I guess it had to happen someday.
Right, we all have that time. Right. Well, you're currently serving as department chair.
Yes, I am.
At the theater, but you've had a lot of experience in the theater department. I'll share some of that information with our audience today, and also talk about your background. A lot of people might be interested, specific areas of academic interest. What interested you in theater before you even got into higher education?
Well, I just kind of got bitten by the theater bug. I'm a costume designer,
right.
And I started doing it and decided I loved it, and if I could do that for a living, why not? It was like playing for me, and I thought, if this is a wonderful thing to do for a living.
Now, was there someone who really sparked your interest at a young age, or someone you can look back at and say, they made a difference for me?
My high school drama teacher, and really encouraged me and gave me the opportunities to do it, and I decided that I would continue it in college.
Right.
And somehow I managed to finish college and go to grad school and finish grad school, and here I am.
Well, those people that inspire people at a young age play a major role then.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I just got through working with the TSA students and watched them with their mentors and their teachers, and saw the same thing happening.
That's great. So that continues on through the generations. There's somebody who makes a difference in someone's life.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, theater has so many different areas, and you mentioned costume design. That's something that people don't realize. That is a crucial part of being able to do theater.
It is, and a lot of people, I've heard this my whole career. You mean somebody does that? And they don't realize that there's somebody back there doing that, and there's somebody back there making those costumes, and it's a lot of work.
And that kind of ties together the teamwork that's involved with theater. People, it's one of those, like television, they see the person on camera, they don't realize here in the studio I have a lot of students working behind the scenes. Theater's the same way. A lot of people behind the scenes.
Yes, there are. There are probably 3 times as many people behind the scenes as there are that are seen. And it is a collaboration. And it's a very enjoyable collaboration if you like working with people.
So working with people and reaching that goal, that accomplishment.
Yes.
Tying that together. Well, tell me a little bit about your academic career. You said you decided to go to college. Where did you go?
I went to a junior college my first year while I was trying to decide if I really wanted to do this for a living. I had planned on becoming a nurse and decided that maybe I shouldn't just throw it all overboard for theater, because I was just starting in theater and I was trying to make a smart decision.
Right. Young students are often like that. What am I going to do?
And so I took a lot of general ed stuff, and while I was making my decision, and it didn't take very long before I realized, yes, this is what I wanted to do. And then I went to the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. And I saw their theater building, and it was wonderful and impressive, and I thought this was a great school to go to. Plus it was in-state tuition for me. And finished school there and went to Northwestern University for graduate school, and finished there and worked there on the staff for a while I finished my thesis, and stayed in Chicago and did some freelance work in Chicago for a while before I started teaching.
So in Chicago, probably a lot of opportunities with the theater and the arts that are in that area.
Absolutely. I had a lot of connections that I made while I was in grad school, and used those connections to work in a lot of the off-loop theaters that were getting started at the time. Steppenwolf was just getting started at the time, and a lot of the Victory Gardens and Northlight Theater were all getting started at the time. And it was an opportunity to get in on the ground level with some of those theaters.
So that must have been exciting to have that application hands-on experience in that. You know, obviously you went to school, but to say, I'm going to go work in the theater area and work with these.
It was down and dirty. One of my advisors in grad school used to call it guerrilla theater because it was do the best you can with what you've got.
So it inspired creativity, problem solving.
Absolutely. Very much so. A lot of problem solving. In fact, I used to put that on my resume, that it's one of my skills was creative problem solving.
Right. Because you have a vision, but how am I going to reach that and accomplish that?
Working with low budgets in poorly equipped spaces.
But yet you still had that teamwork, collaboration that you talked about
Yes.
earlier, that everybody was in that situation
Yes.
working together to do that. And so forth. So then what led you to Missouri Southern?
Well, I started teaching at one of the SUNYs at Geneseo, and I taught there for 4 years and decided that I really missed Chicago and decided to go back to Chicago to freelance for a while. And I did that for a while.
Right.
And then I decided to go back to teaching because freelancing was really, really a difficult life.
Kind of a hit and miss of when you're busy and when you're not, right?
Yes, and I missed the benefits, I missed the students, I missed the academic year. You know, it was Christmas and I was working.
Right. Everybody else is at
what
home and you
happened
don't
to
have a
Christmas
break.
vacation?
Right.
And so it was something that I really, truly did miss the students. So I decided to go back to teaching. And I came to Joplin just by chance because the job was advertised, and I kept saying, oh, I don't want to go to Joplin.
You're in Chicago, why would you come all the way to Joplin? Right?
I don't want to go to Joplin. And people kept telling me about this job in Joplin. And I was busy doing summer theater at the time, and I couldn't be bothered. And I didn't want to apply for the job. But I had applied for some other jobs. And somebody said, you need to look at that job again. Because they knew someone who had been offered the job. And she turned it down because she got a job in Ohio, which was close to her family. So she said, but the department head there is a real go-getter, and you would really like this job. You should really consider it.
So this knowing people.
Yes, and so I said, all right, I'll do it. I'll apply for the job. Stop bugging me. And I applied for the job, and I came for the interview, and this was in July.
So in the middle of the summer.
So it turned out that the department head, Jay Fields, had been in England. He was at Oxford for the summer. And so the job had stopped being advertised, so we figured it was filled. And it turns out that it wasn't filled. And it was advertised again in July, which is when I applied.
He returned from Oxford, said we're going to post that job again.
Right. And so it happened very quickly. And I had 10 days to pack up everything and get here.
July, start school in August.
To get here in time for the first day of classes. And everything fell into place. Within 45 minutes of accepting the job, they had a house for me.
Wow.
And I knew that it was the right move because of the way things fell together.
Right. So it sounds like the department was just a good fit at that time.
It
You know, say, these people are working hard, I'm going to join them and join that team.
Right, it was a very good fit.
Right. And of course the department here has gone through a lot of changes over the years, just like the whole campus. In 1989,
Absolutely.
your facilities compared to what you have now and what you have to work with.
Absolutely. Things have really changed a lot, but changed for the better.
Right.
And we have all grown together. And people have come and gone.
Right. People have retired as well before you.
Yes. And I'm just joining the ranks.
So you join one of those retirees, right?
And we'll see how things go in the future.
Well, you mentioned working with students. So you came to Missouri Southern, you had that opportunity to work with the students. Tell me about that. You're in the classroom now again.
I really enjoy it. One of the things I liked about Missouri Southern and wanted to come here for was the fact that in our department, and well, the whole school at the time was all undergraduates.
Right.
And I like working with undergraduates because they get to do so much. They don't have grad students taking the good stuff away from them.
So they're doing the hands-on work, not somebody older than them.
Right. Right. And I encourage anyone on the undergraduate level to look for a school that does not have graduate students taking the work away from them. So I really believe in that as a training program. Many of our students will go to graduate school and find out that they've already done a lot of the things that the graduate students are doing because they got to do it here at Southern.
And you've worked on many productions over the years
Yes.
at Southern.
Yes.
Is there any particular one that stands out in your mind that it was a, I don't say the word interesting challenge, that you thought, how are we going to handle this from the costume perspective? Or, you know, that you kind of say, well, we did it.
Gosh, I don't know. I should have thought about this.
I mean, there's a lot of different, like I said, there's so many you've had. And many types of performances that you've done?
There's so many different productions. There are different aspects of different productions that stand out. Some worked, some didn't. The most recent was Pippin and the armor. That didn't work.
So how do you...
The armor just didn't work. My idea didn't work, but we learned from it.
So you go to plan B.
We go to plan B next time.
Right.
We couldn't start over, but the actors made it work the best they could. A lot of the productions that we did, we pieced garments together out of fabric that we had left over from other shows. And it made it kind of a patchwork effect that was very interesting to look at, and that was kind of fun. I enjoyed doing that.
I know for some of our viewers, they probably think, oh, okay, you work with costumes, you probably have a huge room full and you just go and say, okay, we need this, this, and this. They don't realize that creative aspect of what fits that performance. It's not like you pull something off the shelf.
Yes, right. We have to make sure that it works for the show, that it supports the script, and that it works for the characters within that play.
Right. Yeah, different sizes and every measurement with the different actors and different.
Yes, yes. It has to work for the play. It has to work for the character. It has to work for the actor and the director.
Of course, the director saying this is our overall vision. We're going to make this work together and tying that together.
Yes.
Right. Well, I know some of our viewers may recall you were involved a few years ago in the news about a historical costumes project, and they're probably saying, "Well, tell me about that. You know, what happened to that? What's happening to that?" And that project.
Well, we teamed up with the Joplin Museum Complex to help them out with the costume collection that they had in the basement, and the costumes were not properly stored, and they needed to be cataloged. They needed to be dated, cataloged, and then properly stored, which means stored with acid-free tissue,
so they'll last, right?
So that they would be preserved and not ravaged by the effects of the environment.
So the moisture in the basement, those types of things are really causing problems.
Right. So what my class did, and it's a service learning class, in fact the class was designed specifically for this purpose, as a service learning class, to work with the museum collection. And it was wonderful for the students because they could go down and pick any garment they wanted and get on a computer and research the date of the garment and the manufacturer if they could find it, if it wasn't handmade. And sometimes they found the designer, sometimes if it was a famous designer. And they would date the garment, learn whatever they could about the background of the garment, and then photograph it and pack it in acid-free tissue in an acid-free box and label the box and put a catalog page in a book that mentioned where the garment was being stored and how it was being stored.
Okay.
And at the end of every semester that we taught the class, we had this binder with the catalog from.
So there's all your information about those costumes.
All the information about the costumes, including photographs.
Now, how old were some of those costumes?
The oldest piece that we found dated back to about 1830.
Wow.
It was a bonnet. Some of them, we found several pieces that dated back to the Civil War.
Wow.
And a lot that dated back to the 1870s.
And that's an aspect of history people don't think about. You know, they think of museums and displays, but the clothing aspect, the costume aspect of preserving the history. Right. So someone who's watching might have, you know, curiosity. Well, you mentioned wrapping things in the proper paper to preserve them. You know, say they have grandma's dress from the turn of the last century or something like that. What are some tips you give to people when you have things like that that are kind of family heirlooms they want to pass down through the years?
If they want to donate it, any information they have about that dress, where it was worn, when it was worn, who wore it, is valuable.
So have that written history to go along with the item.
Yes. We had a dress that was worn to a wedding in Russia.
Oh, what?
That was, the history that went along with it told us that it was customary for all the guests at the wedding to wear white.
Not just the bride.
Not just the bride. And that was very interesting to us. And the dress was absolutely breathtaking. It was falling apart, but it was
still
just
a sight
beautiful.
to see. So you encourage people who have those things to share them with others through donations like that and help out.
Yes.
Okay.
And it would be wonderful if the museum had a place to store all of that. And hopefully in the new, wherever they move to, we'll have more room and a place where they can display more of that.
Have that climate control and things that they need, and tying that together. Now, is that an ongoing project that you know have done it in the past? Is still students are working on that today?
They're still working on it because we're not finished.
There's more there.
The class is only taught once every 2 years, and we thought we'd finish in 2, maybe 3 semesters, but we're still doing it.
Open up more boxes and say there's more to look at.
There's more there, and people keep donating. So it's still going on.
Great. And your students learning, service learning, you can see the difference it makes for them as far as what they've learned by doing.
Yes, yes, they become very passionate about those garments.
Now, I know you've seen a lot of students over the 30 years working with them or so. What, being able to see students go from here to Missouri Southern to elsewhere, whether working in the field theater or going on to education, there must be a lot of variety where your students have gone after they've graduated.
Yes, they have gone all over the place. And I have some of my students' children now in class, as I'm sure you do too. And they have. There was an article in Crossroads about students working for Cirque du Soleil, and one of them is in Australia and New Zealand touring with Cirque du Soleil, and another one was working with cruise lines and touring all over the world with managing cruise lines, stage managing for cruise lines, and they have gone everywhere.
That's great.
It's just really exciting to see them do so well.
And probably rewarding from a faculty perspective that you had a part in their early passion, their career. What
it is. It really is. And to think that maybe we did something to help them get there.
Do you hear from a lot of those graduates as well? And you know, keep up with them?
Not as often as I would like.
Some graduates keep in touch, right?
Yes.
And so, someone who is looking at higher education, which your career has been here at Missouri Southern, what are some of the secrets to success, you would say? You know, long career in higher education, working with students. Maybe another faculty member says, you know, you're getting ready to retire, but what's the key to success?
I don't know. Just keep at it. Just keep at it. It's to me, it's been a great ride.
And so something you've enjoyed and you continue to enjoy?
I have enjoyed it. I really have enjoyed it. It has not been labor. Even though it's been a lot of hard work, it hasn't been hard work.
Right, right. A different type of interpretation of work
Yes.
and so forth. Well, what will you miss most in retirement when you finally leave?
I guess I'll miss the students. I get very maternal.
Right.
I just told one of them who's graduating, you know, my phone numbers, my cell phone's on my business card. If you want to talk to me about grad schools after I'm gone, just call me.
Right.
You know,
So
I'll be here.
You can be reached, you can
Yes.
tie time together. Well, I know a question people also want to know, what about retirement? Any specific plans, goals that you'd like to have?
Well, one of the things I'm planning to do is I have applied to become a CASA, a court-appointed special advocate, and I'm looking forward to that. I do a lot of artwork, and I'm looking forward to catching up on that. I have
Having
a
the time to
closet
do it.
full of art supplies, and I'm anxious to get back to some of that. I'm looking forward to maybe in a couple of years moving to a warmer climate.
Yeah, they don't have the winters like we have.
Yes,
Right.
and this moving to this climate was a treat for me after living in Chicago and upstate New York.
Right.
But I could go even warmer.
Right. Well, as you move along, do you see that you still interest in theater, maybe from the enjoying it side? You know, you're not working behind the scenes?
Yes, yes, I would like to spend more time in New York seeing theater. The cost is just so prohibitive, though.
Oh, yeah. They're cool.
It's just unbelievable. But I would like to see more of it.
Well, the dedication to theater and the interest in theater is something that I know people who aren't involved may not realize what it takes to do that. That, you know, that special aspect of that field. You know, what do you see in your students when they come in and you say, I know this is going to be a great student because I see that in them?
Well, initiative, drive, the desire, the passion to do it.
Right.
When you see that, you know that they're going to be a great student. When they have that passion and they want to do it and they need to do it, you know they're going to be a great student.
Right. And of course, I know the theater department, like many departments on campus, you also touch all the students perhaps at some time through some basic core classes, or you offer the performances for students. So your feelings about the importance of the arts to students, maybe if they're not theater majors, but, you know, just other students here at Missouri Southern. So, you know, what do you say to students that say, well, I'm not a theater major, but how do you encourage them to get to have that interest in the arts and theater?
Well, a lot of them, by forcing them to go to the theater,
Right. They're going to watch that performance.
you know, you expose them to that, and many of them will turn around and say, well, gosh, I never thought it could be so interesting. Or I never thought I'd like it. And one of the things that I enjoy is seeing some of my former students around town. And they'll say, you know, I went to a play. And it's like, great. Or I'll see them at Walmart or something and say, have you gone to a play lately? And they're all excited about it. Yeah, I went to a play. So that's exciting when they do it when they don't have to.
Right, they're doing it because they're interested in it. And for the students maybe who go through your program, and whether they go into teaching or theater, there's also opportunities like community theaters. Many communities around the country and here in Joplin region as well, for them to still get involved with that. Is that important for them to look at those possibilities?
Absolutely. I keep saying absolutely. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
It is very true. Many of our students work at Joplin Little Theater and the community theaters around town, and they are regulars over there and get a lot of experience doing that, and it really enhances their experience with us.
And when a student comes to the theater department and they say, well, I'm interested in it, but they aren't sure, do I want to work behind doing costumes, do I want to do set design, do I want to be the director, do I want to be the actor? How do you work with them and saying, well, find your area of interest?
Well, we expose them to everything. They have to do everything. And many of them will change their direction and find a new direction once they're exposed to something different. Most of them come in wanting to be actors.
Right, everybody wants to be the one seen on the stage.
They all want to be actors. And many of them will leave as stage managers, as lighting designers, as costume designers, as scene designers. And it's real interesting to watch.
to see that development over those 4 years that they're in school.
Yes,
They come in
and we have a very small number who actually leave wanting to be actors.
And that's a very competitive field too. I mean, you look at
yes.
like you said, so many people working behind the scenes in theater versus the few you see on the stage.
And they have a much better chance of getting a job in another field other than acting.
Okay. And when we talk in terms of theater, it's very broad. You talk about New York, Chicago, but you know, even regionally, you have places like Branson and entertainment places that there are probably people looking for skilled talent.
Yes. Yes, and if they have a sideline, if they can do makeup on the side, if they can do build scenery on the side, they can always feed themselves while they're auditioning for roles, while they're looking for work.
So be multifaceted, have those other skills and tying that together. So in kind of closing, what do you think you'll remember most about Missouri Southern as far as the campus, the environment, you know, here at Missouri Southern in your career as a professor?
I think the people. I think the people here are so friendly, and that's what I noticed when I came for my interview 30 years ago, was that the people were so friendly, and I think that's what I'll remember. This is a very friendly place. It's very welcoming, and I tried to be welcoming to people who came through here, and I hope it will stay that way.
Great. Well, Anne, I'd like to thank you very much for visiting with me today and sharing with our audience, and wish you the best of luck in retirement, and thank you for your time at Missouri Southern.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And I'd like to thank you, the viewers, for joining us this week on Newsmakers. I'm Judy Stiles. Hope you can join me again next week at the same time on the station. We'll see you then.